I am Denise Evans. I am 57. I have blue eyes. I have grey hair. I am 5'7".
My name is what? Jeremy. Jeremy. I'm a man. My eye colour is black. And my skin colour is brown.
Philomena Cheney. I'm 65 tomorrow.
My name is Marie Burrows. I'm 66 years old. I have short brown hair. I used to have long brown hair until I had a session of chemo and decided I wouldn't wait for it to fall out. I'd get it cut. Plus it's much easier to look after. I've got blue eyes. I wear glasses. I have been told that I'm reasonably attractive still. I used to be really pretty, but that has disappeared with age. I suppose I would be classed as, I don't know, plump, well padded, well rounded. I don't know what terminology are acceptable these days. I walk with a very marked limp when I can walk, and when I can't I use an electric power chair.
Kieran was born with congenital rubella. It makes for certain disabilities that normally affect the brain. And Kieran was born with a small skull, so he does have problems mentally.
About 8 years ago, I had a fall and fractured my skull. So then I had to go to hospital. And then my eyes went.
He is classed as deaf-blind. He's totally blind in one eye, partial sight in the other. He's profoundly deaf with no hearing or speech.
I have many physical problems.
He had heart defects, which he's had open heart surgery for at 6.5 months. He's also got scoliosis on top, which he had surgery to correct.
I became deaf. How? A sickness. I was 5 years old.
He also has got problems breathing now. He has asthma, eczema, hay fever.
The major ones being fibromyalgia that I've had for years.
He's had a massive hernia surgery. So he's pretty much cut to ribbons with massive scars all over him as well. So he would have some scar tissue. He's got deformity still of the lung capacity because of his scoliosis.
and arthritis.
I couldn't see for about a month or so.
You feel as though you're forgetting something because at one point we were in the hospital for probably nearly every clinic because he covered most of the disabilities there.
So then my eyes went, and then I had to go to hospital again to get them checked out. So they said, you're going to go partially sighted. So I went partially sighted, and
I think I've pretty much covered some of the stuff there.
But the most recent one is a autoimmune condition that is destroying my lungs.
Since my son was born, which is 32 years ago, I've come across numerous paperwork as regards disability, and it gets a bit monotonous and I get really fed up of it.
up and down at the time. One week I'm feeling okay. I said, why am I feeling? I can't see properly. Can't read books. I can't read. I used to love reading storybooks and all that.
We encountered what is disabilities, and we have to repeat over and over again the disabilities to filling in the forms, what they can and cannot do.
Form filling. One of my favourite pastimes, not. Especially with all the changes we've had to the benefit system.
Is, can they walk a short distance?
And there were 4 trick questions.
That would be 20 yards, sometimes lengths of buses.
Can you get on a bus so you can travel to your job?
The urine, what they can you.
Can you cook yourself egg and bacon? Then you could work in a cafe.
Can they drink? Can they eat? Do they need to be assisted?
One of them was, can you make a sandwich? And they figured if you could do that, you could work in a sandwich bar.
Do they need to be helped with their clothes?
Can you operate a washing machine? Well, then you could work in a laundrette.
Generally, anything that is needed for the form, and the form can be about 30 to 40 pages long.
The PIP form, I think, is 46 pages.
I wish we didn't have to fill in the forms. The whole thing just makes me sad.
Yeah, it's just, there's no compassion.
I'm sick and tired. He was born like it'll never ever improve. As I said earlier, it'll just get worse. I dread the day because chances are that I'll probably survive, outlive Kieran. That is constantly on your mind.
Yeah, well, if I can fill in forms, and I can't do it. Can't do anything like that. I get somebody to do it for me. I write even birthday cards. I can't even do that. I do fill in passport forms and things like that. I do.
I get fed up of repeating what my son can't do with his disability. He was born with these disabilities, and you're just reminded over and over again to claim a benefit what they can't do and will never be able to do.
So, yes. What more do you want to know?
I'd like my son to be married, maybe have some children, and have a job, enjoying his life, not being undergoing the hospital back and forth, filling in forms, being asked questions, what he can't do.
It's not easy saying to somebody that you might struggle to wipe your bum. You know, it's not easy saying to them that sometimes you lay for 2 days without anything to eat or drink because you can't get it.
In point of fact, he makes the best of a bad situation. That's what Kieran can do. He does everything with a smile on his face, regardless of whatever pain he's in. And he gives the most massive smiles out ever. That's one major thing he can do. He gives lots of people enjoyment and happiness.
Me being deaf, but in a hearing environment, is really difficult. Let me explain. When I was in Ghana, people would pity me for being deaf. I would feel very vexed.
So if I describe Kieran's disabilities and then we bring him in, they tend to be quite shocked. He's sort of not fallen into the little box of being in a wheelchair. That's got to be so frustrating for anybody, even the people in a wheelchair. Doesn't mean to say it has to be visual or have wheels attached to show that you're disabled now.
I think this government has done a very good job of making people believe that we're responsible for all the ills, from the blooming war in the Middle East to the climate change. They've used us as a scapegoat. You know, look at all these people. If they weren't taking money out of the benefit system, we wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't be such a drain. You know, focus on all the wealthy people that aren't paying their tax.
Get really stressed out, and if anybody says anything to me, I just go for it, just like that. It's not their fault, it's me. Don't deny me and all this. And so I just get so angry and frustrated. And
Another one, when we took him shopping, it was, oh, you're very brave to take him out. Because people didn't like Kieran, wasn't taken out often. And then a very old, lovely neighbour came across and turned round, because this is the old perception years ago. Don't worry, when he's older you can put him in an asylum.
For the first time, probably about a year ago now, I actually had a car driver slow down and stop so he could hurl abuse at me.
If you wanna stay, I'll give you a photograph the next time.
I hate the way that everything has to be about blimmin' pound signs. You know, I have not been able to work through no fault of my own. I didn't choose to live like this. Who would choose to live like this?
Not everybody is the same. Every disability is different.
You can't always work things out in what's important in pound, shilling and pence, because we're worth more than that.
I would say one of the most annoying things that's happened with me with Kieran was in the early days when we were not sure if he was going to be totally blind, and he had to go into tests for to see if he had any sight whatsoever. And then the doctor couldn't even be bothered to come and see us after he'd gone in to have his eyes tested. So they rang to say, are you coming? He was going to come after clinic because he forgot to come and see us. But he went to see his private patient, and then we waited, didn't come. So then when we did, we had to wait 10 days to find out if our son was totally blind or not.
the doctors at the moment, I'm getting stressed out with them at the minute. Because, you know, when you go in and you can't see your name, there's a screen and you can't see your name. And so I keep telling them, I can't see that. Why are you putting my name on that when I can't see it? Like, every time I go in there, I get really angry with them. And if I say, like, how can, then I'm waiting for about an hour for people coming in after me and they're seeing before me.
A lot of areas that deaf people have contact with are lacking communication. We need communication. Like when we go to the doctor's office, the language barrier is very difficult.
When Kieran had his spinal surgery, the Dr. Davis came on his day off with his son to come and see my son in intensive care. And I thought, and I got to say that his paediatrician was equally as fantastic. We've come across nurses, consultants who are awesome, but we do come across some people who are very lax.
I need the phone to phone the doctors. I need it to phone the chemist so that I can order my repeat prescriptions. It keeps me in touch with friends. The isolation is probably the hardest thing to live with when you have a severe disability.
Well, yeah, I'm isolated then myself. Not only my son's disabled, I've lost my job, my identity. I tend to be a grandmother, married to my husband. I am a parent. I don't really have my own identity anymore as a work colleague.
Yeah, 16 years I was completely in this flat. The only way that I kind of went anywhere was laid on the back seat of a car when I had to go to the dentist.
Yeah, but last year I was really isolated. I didn't want to go out, didn't want to stay in my flat, just want to stay in bed all the time.
The isolation's awful. It's awful. I used to feel like mugging the postman. You know those big hooks they used to use on the stage to pull people off when they wouldn't come off. Used to feel like buying one of those and dragging the poor postman and just talk to me, please, just talk to me.
Me, being deaf, feels like I'm alone sometimes. What I can hear every day is nothing.
It is. It's very isolating. And when I have the power chair, but that wasn't supplied by the NHS. That was supplied through a charity. And the difference that made to my life was just, goodness me, the difference between day and night. It was wonderful. One of the first things I did was I went to the shop and bought my own biscuits. And I know anyone who's not been housebound would understand why is that such a big thing? Because for so many years I'd had to eat other people's choices. Now I can choose my own. But yeah, it is very hard.
I'm so happy now I've got Jasmine, and I'm so happy coming here, and it's really lovely thing to get out of my flat, instead of just looking at the four walls every day of the week. Just like to get out and be doing things and meeting people. And
The first time I came here to the UK, I was very happy to get into Deaf College. And I met with loads of deaf people signing. I was still using ASL. I made new friends. It was the first time I was actually happy. Going to deaf clubs, going to church, starting to learn BSL. And that really made me feel happy.
Pip is my particular favourite, because they say the reason they changed it is because we were all hugely offended by the fact that it was called Disability Living Allowance. I have yet to find a disabled person who was offended by it, so they thought they'd give us another name which had much more gravitas. Pip! I mean, how demeaning can you get?
My disability benefit. A lot of deaf realise they have a right, but some people don't understand. They miss a lot of their rights that they should have.
And people are just being reassessed, and the people who are doing the reassessments don't have medical qualifications sometimes, so they don't know what people can and can't do. They don't understand that just because you can take 2 steps, that doesn't mean you can take 200.
God, when the new thing for PIP come in from the Disability Living Allowance, and everybody in the country has to fill in the forms for these, you have to ring first. Now you have a letter through, you have to apply within 2 weeks, and if you don't, it could lose your benefit.
Each day I would have to decide, am I going to eat? Am I going to heat my flat, or am I going to pay the bedroom tax? Because I couldn't do all 3.
So obviously I have to fill in because I'm the appointee to Kieran. So you ring, they ask who the GP is, and then who anybody's related to Kieran.
If I, could overcome everything and actually get to the assessment, which incidentally lasts an hour, I can't do anything for an hour. If I physically get there, then that's immediately a black mark against me. Oh, you got here, so you can't be as bad as you say you are. They don't see the 4 days afterwards that you can't get out of bed.
Now in Kieran's case, the form didn't arrive in 3 weeks, so I'm back on the phone, explained that this is what they said, is to ring the form. And I duly have another lady the other end, very nice, inquiring, did I ring the last time? And I went, because she said, oh, there's a bit of like a mark or a stop on. I said, I don't understand what you mean. She said, well, Mrs. Evans, did you ring the last time? I said, well, of course I rang the last time. Oh, well, she said, there's a discrepancy on you and the fact that they said your son rang.
The benefit system doesn't understand that my English is different to what they use, and I can't communicate like hearing people do. That I need extra help to call the disability benefits, and it's very difficult to get other people to help me talk to them.
And I still find it insulting. I'd love my son to speak, and some person got paid their money, the other end, can't be bothered to do their job tidy, and insult my son saying that he rung.
Find me the employer out there that would like to employ me for 3 hours a week, you know, and I'll take the job.
Well, each test, because whatever benefit you have, you have to go through the same test over and over again. You're filling in all these documents all the time. Then you have to produce evidence that where's their disability? Have you seen a new consultant? Do you have any paperwork? I mean, it's just never ending. You know, Kieran's not affected by all these forms. It's maybe the main carers.
Life is tough if you have a disability. And to put us under even more pressure, what for? You know, what for? It just seems to me, we're one of the world's wealthiest countries. We should be bloody ashamed of ourselves that we've allowed our government to do this to people in our own communities. It makes me very sad.